From the backstretch at Saratoga, this is Loose on the Lead with Steve Bick and Seth Merrow. Loose on the Lead is sponsored by
Live in front of Clare Court, Seth Merrow, Steve Bick, and I commented as you sat down, talk about summer casual, and your response was?
I've given up. Exactly. I've got no ties left.
No ties left.
I'm sorry. Listen. I think of myself as a non-sweater because I don't. At least I don't perspire, from the top down. Mid-range, You don't
have to tell me. I arrive at the track every day with that. It's like, oh, this is not a good look.
No, it's tough. So yesterday I'm trying stuff on. I'm thinking I'm going to wear, Whitney Day. Traditionally, I've worn the seersucker.
And you had the seersucker jacket on yesterday.
Well, I went. Yeah, that's the seersucker sport coat with the brown. With the the brown. Thank you. But I
kind of saddle shoes you wear? Yeah. Yes.
No, just a nice pair of wingtip. It's actually very funny. I was in the racing office a couple of years ago, and I was wearing those. And here's Danny Gargan, and Gargan looks down. He says, "Hey, look!" And he's got the same shoes. He said, "These are nice, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "They were expensive." I said, "Where'd you get them?" He said, "Oh, I got them at I forget where he said." I said, "Oh, okay." Listen, Gargan pays retail. What are you going to say? So, no, they're fabulous. I love those shoes. I can't. I'm sorry. It's actually right now. It's not terrible.
Well, doing the morning shows, it has been weirdly like this right from the beginning of the meet. You come in at 9 o'clock, and it's like, hey, it's a beautiful day. By the time you get to 11, that's why I've done
forget it.
Coatless the past few days.
So yesterday, after a bunch of attempts, I said, you know what, open collar. And then today, I thought, you know what, I got the linen.
All right. I'm buying into it. I'm all about the summer casual.
I love it.
Before we get to some recaps from yesterday and the day before, do want to note Nicole Russo will join us. It is sales week. She covers the sales for the Daily Racing Forum, so we'll talk a little bit about the sales coming up this week. New York bred sales coming up a week, next weekend, and maybe we'll tout some horses to look at first couple of days of the sale with Nicole. And then it's our annual visit. Last year we had the Power Fritz or whatnot that canceled their visit last year, and I was getting a lot of negative feedback that folks missed Paul and Duke last year. Paul and Duke Matties will make their annual visit here.
That there was a snafu, as we say. And I also forgot I was going to get one of those little ceramic. We have one of those ceramic Christmas trees. I meant to bring it in and use it as a centerpiece because of one of the greatest lines in capital OTB TV history.
Yes, very good.
When Paul sat down a couple of years ago and said Merry Christmas, and we looked at him and he said, well, because people always call me and text me every Christmas when the OTB runs this show, that special appearance. Duke and Paul will discuss. It'll be a grab bag. I know we're going to talk about the steward calls from the last few days that just remain mystifying to players. Apparently, you can herd horses 3 paths. That's fine. But if you tighten one up and have a little bit of hurly-burly, that's no good. But you can cut off a path for the length of the stretch. That's okay. Not a problem. It's the most bizarre and absolutely maddening scenario.
I've never gotten the herding thing bugs me because you won't get a decision, particularly if they don't touch. But you're taking away the forward momentum of that horse.
Of course. Of course. I mean, if the the horse is taking every step is taking, and there's the body of the other horse is in front. How's he supposed to get by? Oh, he was never getting by. Right. He was never getting by because this horse was making sure he wasn't getting by. What are you doing? Yeah. It's absolute nonsense. I thought I made a funny quip the other day when it was Javier Castellano in that 8th race on Wednesday. I said, boy, Javier, Thursday on the radio, I said, boy, Javier back riding his best, which means he's back to his best form hurting because he was absolutely, him and DeSormo for years were the absolute masters of that. Floating horses out on the turn. And he's getting out a little. No, he's not. He's forcing a horse with momentum out a couple more pads. I tell you, maybe they'll stop. Maybe the stewards stand here. Maybe they will address this when somebody's dead on the racetrack. Maybe then. Think about that. Because that's where we're going to end up.
It is
That's
dangerous.
where you're going to end up, with a clipped heel and a dead jockey.
It is dangerous. There's no
Keep
question.
it up.
There's no question.
They're busy. They're too busy fining people in the racing office. That's their big agenda.
So Duke and Paul coming on and hit on that and other things.
I'll let them get heated under the collar.
As always with Duke and Paul. But top of the show, we have to shift gears here because we didn't do it at the top of the handicapping show because you were going to be in here live. But it's time for your DePaula play of the day. My dark horse play of the day, I said earlier.
You're the dark horse king.
I'm feeling pretty good. 18 days. There was one scratch of 17 picks. 8 of them hit the money. 3 wins, 3 seconds, 2/3.
What's the ROI?
All the categories.
The ROI?
I have approximately $150 across the board.
In 18 days?
And so there's 50-some dollars via win, 50 place. There's more place than win, and there's about 45 now in the show.
There's a way to do this. You add up all the money and you divide
I
it by
did that.
the
I did that, but a couple days ago.
Wow.
I didn't have it in my head, but I did that I did it a couple days ago.
When you're banging it out like that, you should have that ROI.
I did. I banged it out on Twitter a couple of days ago when I put it together.
Oh, I didn't see that actually.
Yeah, I put it out.
Well, in the meantime,
Play today. DePaula play today.
I'm stymied. I am absolutely stymied. I got the 4 placements, and I thought I was picking up some momentum. And it's funny. There's been some days where we're not doing I'm not the DePaula play of the day player, but have actually had some of the best bets. Some of the horses that Aztec Sunrise, the Wayne Catalano. From the other day.
The firster from Catalano?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Sharp Aztecas are
Yeah.
out of control.
Yeah.
They're absolutely, in fact, we could talk about that with Nicole Russo. Sharp Azteca, he's 3rd in earnings. This was as of, I think, Friday. 3rd in earnings of the first crop sires. Bolt Doro leads, although he doesn't have a stake winner, which is a little unusual. Bolt Doro has got a bunch of winners, but now Sharp Azteca has passed him in number of winners. I think he's up to 13 from his first crop. He's got 2 stake winners, including that Sharp Aztec, the Doug O'Neill that won the Tyro at Monmouth last weekend with an 85 buyer. So Sharp Azteca has been an absolute marvel, and he was sort of coming into the sale season as with his yearlings. And then even as the 2-year-olds were in training, people were a little hesitant because of the association with George Navarro. Basically, a lot of them were purchased as bargains. I mean, real bargains, for $20,000, $40,000, $30,000, and they're coming out running. So we'll talk to Nicole about that. But anyway, the play of the day, and I'm going to look for a wire job in this spot. Look outside to Cash in a Flash.
Which race?
The last, actually. We're going to make you wait for the Paula play of the day. And I want to check the number because I wasn't sure if it was, the 11. Cash in a Flash. There you go. Cash in a Flash. You're looking at 8-1, and essentially he's going to have to wire this field. I like the fact that he finally gets on the grass This is an Uncle Mo gelding of Mrs. Weber's with Mark Cassie. And Johnny jumped aboard a couple of weeks ago, and that race came off the turf. Cassie trying to get Cash in a Flash on the grass. So gets on the grass, and those races at Gulfstream on the synthetic absolutely are good enough to wire this group. And there's really not a lot of other obvious pace pressure. So let's get and of course earlier in the card, this could be a very nice scenario. Just thinking about it. Oh, that's actually funny, because I hadn't thought about this until now. But in the De La Rose, you've got Mrs. Weber and Mark with our flash drive as well. Not related, as it happens. Cry and Catch Me, the dam of Cash in a Flash, broke her maiden here, because I was added in the win picture for the dam. Cry and Catch Me. So Cash in a Flash, you could have a double flash for Mrs. Weber, our flash drive in the De La Rose, and then Cash in a Flash in the nightcap. The DePaula play of the day. Let's get on the board with a win. Enough with the second place finish.
It might be a super daily double for the Live Oak Plantation.
Oh, no. He's here all week, folks. Tip your servers.
Don't forget to tip your waitress.
You don't say waitress anymore. You say server now.
Yeah, okay. Don't forget to tip your
Unless
server.
you're at Jack's Oyster House, where it's only waiters.
Oh.
Is it still only waiters at
That's
Jack's?
a good question. I've never been to Jack's, but I know they had the.
You live in the Capital District how long?
Well, my whole life.
Your whole life? Yeah. You've never been to Jack's Oyster House?
I've never had an oyster, so I don't know if I'm.
The oyster is in the name. They don't hold a gun to your head at the table and say, "Eat those oysters, you slug." They're famous for the steaks and the chops.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
the oysters were famous like in 1883. It's unbelievable. I don't like oysters. Wow.
I'll put it on the.
I don't like oysters. Actually, I don't like oysters. Tell you where I'll have oysters.
I don't like. It's one of those foods I've never tried. And it's one of those where I'm kind of reluctant to try, just on the look of things.
They don't have a great. They don't have a great appearance. You know, sitting there in that soupy water. It's not a.
That said, I love clams, and clams don't really have a good look either. I will say, but.
I think clams have it over. Oysters.
Well, I think so too. Oysters have a There's a.
But you know who they both laugh at? Mussels. They just laugh at the mussels.
Yeah, some people love mussels too. Mussels are not on my agenda.
Some people like blood sauce. That's your Groundhog Day line of the morning.
All right, let's take a kind of a recap of some of the action from yesterday and kick things off with the Whitney. I called for the replay, the entire race. We'll take a look at yesterday where Life is Good kind of took them all the way around. Twitter, people are really kind of punching at this performance. I thought it was a really good performance. Comes up with a 107 buyer figure, and the chart margin is going to wind up to be a couple of lengths. Happy Saver moves late to wind up second. Hot Rod Charlie third. Olympiad disappoints, running fourth. Zoomer, the $50,000 claim in the race, no surprise, pulls up the rear. But again, I was surprised on social media how much consternation and criticism.
Really?
Yeah.
Social media reaction surprised you.
But
and oysters.
I thought, 46, 110. And then at the top of the stretch, it looked like, they may go by it, but he comes back and runs very well. So I was impressed. We wanted that duel between Life is Good and Olympiad. We didn't get that, but I thought it was a very good performance in the Whitney yesterday.
Well, one thing, for those of us that liked Olympiad, and I did, you knew you were a chicken in a pot right there. When he starts to back up, essentially, and when Hot Rod Charlie goes on and Olympiad has got absolutely no response, he's finished. Meanwhile, you got to appreciate, and this is what made sense about the approach. Life is Good was going to use his speed to do what he's cut out to do. The mile and the eighth, obviously between the San Felipe, as a 3-year-old and the performance in the Pegasus, we know that he can get rolling on the front end. Does this get us excited about the Breeders' Cup Classic? I doubt it. He does get leg weary here, and Happy Saver, who ran just a dynamite race, and I tell you what, you realize after this effort by Happy Saver, he's never been off the board. He's now got 5 wins, 5 seconds, and a third, and 11 career tries. I mean, he is reliable. I understand why Flavian Pratt and the team and Doug O'Neill and company, why they didn't necessarily, try to engage Life is Good. You maybe wanted to spar and stay in contact. I don't know why anybody is knocking the effort. There is a story to be read this morning from Dave Grenig yesterday about, Dave compiled some quotes and some conversation with horsemen who feel that the track is a little bit deep and particularly tiring. And I will tell you, Life is Good. I put up a picture. You want to talk about social media? I put up a picture. Todd, for those of you that didn't notice it, if you weren't on track, he started to thump. He started to tie up.
Oh, you had the picture with the hose, right?
He was thumping his rib cage, and he needed to get moving. Some people critical that he was held, motionless in the winner's circle too long. Todd was very conscious of what was going on and said, "Let's go. We got to get him moving." And then Todd grabbed the hose himself and to cool him down. And then he went a little further up the stretch, and they hit him again with the hose, and he started to relax. But I love the social media reaction. We're going to have a bunch of people noting, their horsemanship how accomplished they are, and they're going to critique, Todd Pletcher and the attendant staff about how to handle it. They all were conscious, and they moved him as quickly as possible. We'll see. How. I'm going to be curious to talk to Todd tomorrow on radio and see how much this took out of him. But
148 changed over that track. Very good.
Exactly.
107.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Let's go back. Let's take a look at the test. Upset there.
Yes.
Matareya winds up running third at 30 cents to $1. I had Wesley Ward on yesterday. I think, when I talked to Wesley yesterday about I think they were just looking for a placing in a grade 1. I think, just get a nice, some black type on the resume. But Chi-Town Lady comes very late and gets it done at 17-1. Hot Pepper second. Matareya runs third in here. So again, an upset for Wesley Ward and company in the test.
I ended up with nothing out of this, despite liking Chi-Town Lady. In my write-up, I picked her second. She was the only closer in a field of speed.
Yeah.
You had 6 horses that wanted to be on or near the lead, and you had 1 horse that was going to come from off the pace. And you get Joel Rosario to boot. So, in fact, I was watching the race with our friend and partner, Steve Carlin, and Dr. Alan Miller, and wow, they said, they're monitoring the exactus, and they said, what do you? I said, the horse that's going to come pick off, a spot late is Chi-Town Lady, and then the way I ended up betting it, I had tossed Hot Peppers. I mean, first of all, Rudy Rodriguez. Right now, it's lucky that Rudy can find the barn, let alone a winner's circle, and I just thought she would get burnt up, so I tossed Hot Peppers completely. That's us on the screen. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Let's take a look at one more before we bring up Nicole, because we do have the Glens Falls and the nice performance by Warlike Goddess in here.
She wins. The race to talk about is the Derby.
Okay, let's pull up.
Warlike Goddess was 1-5, and she,
lived up to it.
She was handled like a 1-5.
So again, here's the stretch run of the the Glens Falls, and it is Warlike Goddess. But as you say, she got it done as she was supposed to get done. And then once we wrap up this, pull up the Saratoga Derby, we'll watch Nation's Pride get it done over Annapolis. Classic Causeway winds up running third in here, but Nation's Pride coming in from overseas to run a good second in the Belmont Derby for Charlie Appleby. Improves on that, obviously getting it done yesterday in the Saratoga Derby.
Well, this is a really good horse, and the time measurement is all screwed up, so they're going to have to hand time this before there's a figure. But this is a serious horse. Probably, I'm not trying to take away from Classic Causeway, who was very noble in victory, and the way he won the Belmont Derby. They're not going to take it away from him just because Nation's Pride had some traffic issues and so forth. But this is a real serious 3-year-old turf colt that is tractable and can adjust to a lot of different distances and configurations. And he probably should be 2 for 2. Great to have Charlie Appleby on hand at Saratoga, and Will Buick. They call him Will. All the lads were calling him Will, and so that struck me as notable. 2-1 on him. 620 was an absolute gift. I mean, that was just going to look in
did go up as the
retrospect.
favorite.
Well, he went favored, but at 2-1 plus was a tremendous price. Classic Causeway held for third. Good job, and we'll see about, like we said, we'll see about the time. One of the funny things was Buick brought him in the winner's circle and didn't know where to go. He brought him in and brought him over to the left, and they were like, Will, over here. And they spun him around. I was really impressed with this one, and Godolphin just, on an international basis, very scary. And of course, they could come right back with Moonlight today and go 2 for 2 in the Derby and the Oaks.
Charlie Appleby with that one as well. All right, we'll take a break. As promised a little earlier, Nicole Russo writes about breeding for the Daily Racing Form, and of course, with the sale coming up, she's going to be covering the sale as well. We'll get a little preview on the upcoming sale this week.
Go to DRF, go to the breeding drop-down. Nicole has produced a 82-page document. Nicole, great job with the yearling sales preview. You'll hear from her live ahead of tomorrow's select yearling sale. One of the most anticipated sales.
Highlighted summer. All right, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Then come join the family for value. Just visit, call, or click.
This week, celebrate with savings. Drive Silverado, just $3.99 a month. Yes, $3.99 a month.
So come join the family and think DePaula for all your automotive needs. When you think trucks, think DePaula. Then come join the family for value. Just visit, call, or click.
This week, celebrate with savings. Drive Equinox, just $259 a month. Yes, $259 a month.
So come join the family and think DePaula for all your automotive needs.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming. Wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
It's Sunday morning. It's between 10 and 11 a.m. That means it's Loose on the Lead. Welcome back, as promised before the break, with the sale coming up. The big sale Monday and Tuesday, but having become very popular the weekend also, the New York bred sale. Highly recommend coming up and kind of enjoying a couple of evenings up here in Saratoga. You'll have a lot of fun. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the sale and maybe point to some horses to watch over the next couple of days. Who better to reach out to than our friend Nicole Russo, writes for the Daily Racing Forum, used to be a regular right up here, a native of the area. Nicole, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Very good. And so Saratogian for a while, and then now you're down based in Kentucky, right?
Lexington, Kentucky for Daily Racing Forum. I've been down in Lexington about 10 years now, and before that, as you said, I was right here at the Saratogian and Pink Sheet here in town.
Yeah, very good. I remember those days. Certainly had fun seeing up in the press box regularly in those days, and now we get to see you for maybe a little more of a limited time, but always fun to have you in town. And you do cover breeding and the sales for the Daily Racing Forum before we talk Saratoga in particular. Again, given the financial situation in the country and around the world this year, how have the sales been so far in 2022?
So far, I think we've gotten off to a nice start. We've only had one yearling sale so far. It was the Fasig-Tipton July sale down in Lexington in the early part of the month, and that's sort of a sale for sort of early blooming, precocious horses, and we did see some gains in that sale from its 2021 kind of comeback edition. The sale was not held in 2020, as many were not due to the pandemic. And, we did see a good marketplace there. I think right now there's a lot of enthusiasm to go racing with a lot of purse incentives for state bred programs, with high purses around the country, particularly in Kentucky and New York. Ship and Win is, a big draw in California. We saw some horses purchased from that sale specifically to go run in California for Ship and Win. So I do think the market's good. I think as we get down more into the middle and lower markets, we might see, sort of some market restraint. As Carrie Brogdon of, Mockmore Hall told me, she said, people need to pay their rent and utilities and buy food, and they don't need to buy racehorses. But that's not something that, affects, kind of the upper edge of the market as much. Here at the Saratoga sale, in sales like Keeneland September's Book 1, a lot of that segment of the market buying bunch has a lot more discretionary income. You might see some restraint, because certainly these people are not completely immune to, inflation and other economic realities. You might see some restraint. You might see maybe lower prices on some top horses because we'll see people going in partnership and spreading the risk rather than competing with one another and driving up the price in the ring. So certainly there are some factors we should be aware of, but I think they're hoping and expecting the upper market to be good at Fasig-Tipton this week. There's a lot of optimism from both consigners and sales officials.
And where does this sale fit into kind of the calendar during the year?
This is definitely kind of one of the, the boutique upper end. This is really our first chance to test, sort of that upper end of the marketplace. We're early in the season. This is a sale people have specifically weighted and pointed horses for, bypassing that first sale, which is very precocious horses. This is our first chance to test kind of that boutique upper marketplace.
And also do want to alert people again. Stop over, the next couple of nights. You'll have a lot of fun. But boy, the New York bred sale over the past few years has become very, very popular as well. Not just from the fan side, a lot more fans show up and just enjoy the 2 nights, but I think the buyers have appreciated it as well. New York breds are not the New York breds of my early days. It's a nice program, and some nice horses have come out of that sale over the past few years. Absolutely,
and I think what's encouraging for the New York bred program is not just that New York breds are having continued success on the racetrack. I mean, you've seen it right here at this meet with Robin Sparkles and Cityman and others competing, an open graded company, and of course we all know about horses like that. But at the 2-year-old sales earlier this year, we saw New York breds, sell very well. One was the top priced horse, in the country this year in the 2-year-old marketplace for Chester and Mary Broman, the $3.55 million colt who smashed the record at Fasig-Tipton Mid-Atlantic. One of several New York breds who sold for $500,000 or more in the 2-year-old market and really rewarded pinhookers handsomely. And I think, that sort of wrote itself for the New York bred program, that it pays to invest in and race those horses.
Yeah, no question about it. Steve?
Couple of things, Nicole, before we get into the catalog. Because I do, as always, we want to talk about the first crop sires that are going to be represented in any quantity here, like Audible and Omaha Beach and so forth. But right now, the 2-year-olds on the racetrack, the first crop runners that are
sires, yeah.
Unbelievable what's going on, and the competition through this last third of the year is going to be very interesting. And one of the things we talked about already this morning was Sharp Azteca, who is absolutely the surprise. It always seems like there is a moderately priced or even cheap stallion that bubbles to the surface just by, as John Secura says, flipping the switch on the get. Then you fold in the anticipated runners like Justifies, which have been terrific. Gervin, certainly, and we're going to see the Michelle Lovell, Gervin's son, coming up in the Saratoga Special. Looking forward to that. Give a survey from what you're tracking, because certainly Boldoro has got a hatful of babies in this sale.
Yes. And, I think this year's freshman sires were a very interesting group to me, because there were a lot of horses who I thought had the potential to be very versatile. Of course, we had horses in the group like, Catholic Boy was a Grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf. Motown, such a good performer on both the dirt and turf. Good Samaritan, a lot of versatile horses, and then a lot of horses who had the potential to be a bit of hidden turf sires because of who their own sire lines were. Justified by Scat Daddy, Bolt Doro by Medaglia Doro, City of Light by Quality Road is a multi-purpose stallion. And then, Sharp Azteca, who you mentioned, who's really come out flying. He was a very interesting horse to me, because he had that dirt miler speed that we see that's so valued in the American marketplace. But then also he's by Freud, talk about the New York bred program, one of New York's, all-time leading sires, and dominate in the turf ranks specifically over the last decade. So I did think Sharp Azteca had the potential to sire turf horses, and we've certainly seen that already. The weekend before this weekend, he had stakes winners on both the dirt and turf, with some of the better buyers for 2-year-olds thus far this year in the top 10. So I think, he's really got the potential to continue on this season. Justify, another one with graded and group winners already on both dirt and turf, which you would expect being by Scat Daddy. So City of Light, with winners bookending this past week on both dirt and turf. He's really starting to heat up, and he was so well received in the yearling marketplace last year, and I think people have cooled off on him a little bit right now, but I think that's a mistake, because I think those horses, they're big, they're scopy. I think they're going to continue to blossom and develop, and they're really just now getting going. Mendelsohn, the other son of the quote-unquote other son of Scat Daddy for Coolmore, another obviously very versatile horse from that successful sire line. So that's really the interesting thing to me, especially as we have, more and more lucrative turf opportunities here in the United States with, the additional Breeders' Cup race that we added a few years back, the Turf Triple, which we're in the midst of here in New York. Races like that, I think, these versatile young stallions are really interesting, especially in an American marketplace that's lost some of its top turf sires, sadly, in the last 6 months or so.
Well, and one of the other ones we should include in this, because I've got an interesting set of numbers. Gun Runner, of course, from the first crop, saw another Gun Runner winner yesterday, and discussed this with Sid Fernando last week on the show, on the radio, and one of the stories that is not going to go away and is only going to burgeon. Ron Winchell, with as many Tappet mares as he's in possession of, crossed with Gun Runner on top. You had one yesterday, 86 buyer. He's going to have just a parade of Gun Runner sons and daughters out of Tappet mares. I said to Sid the other day, has there ever been, in your memory, one breeder owner with an arsenal like this? And I mean, Sid, it'll end up being something that Sid will write up, because it's frightening what's going to happen. Gun Runner has got 14 babies in this sale. Into Mischief, 16, 10 Justifies, 13 Uncle Mo's. And it really does feel like Fasig kind of front-loaded this. There's like 5 engines on the freight train to make sure that the sale, that the numbers are, are headline worthy.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about the Winchells and Tappet and Gunrunner, and as you said, that's been such a productive cross, and I think it's very interesting that Ron Winchell and David Fisk and that whole operation, I mean, they really were instrumental. They didn't just race these horses in their colors. They've been instrumental in the making of both of them as stallions. Maintained a significant interest in Tappet when he went to stud at Gainesway. Purchased a lot of mares for him, sent him a lot of mares, campaigned some of the runners that helped make him a leading sire. And now they're doing the same with Gunrunner after co-campaigning him with the Torrealba family of 3 Chimneys. They're sending him their good mares, and they're racing these horses and buying these horses and selling these horses. And really just the operation has been instrumental in the making of, 2 great stallions from their family operation. And I think that's really remarkable as well.
Gunrunner with 2, 4, 6, 8 colts and 6 fillies. The Uncle Mo's, the Into Mischiefs is mentioned. Justify with a handful. There's, I think, what I count up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 Justifies. How about Curlin's in this sale?
Curlin, I think, is poised to have a huge sale.
Yeah.
He's got, a few outstanding lots that I saw when I was kind of going through and circling, hips to watch. And
I will say the booklet we touted earlier, you have some hips to watch, and maybe we'll toss those out for people because a couple of Curlins, and I pulled up some pages from the catalog that folks can look at. But hip number 57, a filly by Curlin that you had highlighted, maybe people want to take a look at on Monday night.
Yeah, she's a half to Improbable, who not only was a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old and a good 3-year-old, but then went on to be a multiple Grade 1 winner and a champion as an older horse. So, he was a precocious horse who continued to develop. And then the other Curlin that I think we've discussed
Tuesday night
is
Hip 126.
Hip 126 is a full sister to First Captain, who topped the sale 3 years ago when selling for $1.5 million. And I think it's interesting that this is a full sister. So it's a filly from a very deep family. It's the family of Blush with Pride, Better Than Honor, all those broodmares that we know so well. And having a filly from that family, that's tremendous residual value as a broodmare down the line. But yeah, Curlin with a few good lots, I think he's one poised for a very big sale.
And I had pulled up one other page, 207. That'll be near the end of Tuesday night, the end of the sale. I'm sure they are thrilled they're stuck at the end of the sale, but people will stick around for a horse like this by Into Mischief, a sire I really like for precocious runners.
Yeah, and this is just about as strong a page as you can get by the reigning leading sire Into Mischief out of the reigning broodmare of the year, Indian Miss. Into Mischief's resume really just keeps getting better. As I said, he's been the leading sire 3 years running, breaking his own earnings record each of the past 2 years. Closing in right now on Quality Road, who is atop the sire list this year. Largely thanks to the exploits of Emblem Road in Saudi Arabia earlier this year, although Quality Road is by no means a one-hit wonder. But that did give him a big jump start on his bankroll. And now Into Mischief is already, maybe improbably for any other sire, continuing to close in on him, with runners such as Life is Good. So there's, a reminder of that stallion's prowess. And I mean, Indian Miss, Indian Charlie mares have just kind of been all over the board this year. There's another mare, Feathered, who's the dam of Flightline, and Indian Miss, as we said, broodmare of the year. She's the dam of a champion in Mitoli, and
we're looking at the page
Mitoli,
Hot Rod Charlie.
Great
like I said,
winner,
late in the
Hot
sale,
Rod
but they'll
Charlie,
stick around
and
for this one.
Absolutely, I think this one is really one of the jewels of the catalog, and should I think yes, they will stick around for this one, but I do think people would rather be late than early. I think it's kind of a maxim, you'd rather be on the second night of the sale than the first. Sometimes the market takes a bit to find its legs, and they will certainly be warmed up by the time we get to this one. And I'm expecting this horse, again, if the horse vets well, jumps through all these hoops that he needs to jump through. I mean, these horses are under intense scrutiny, but I do think that this horse has the potential to bring the sale down with a bang.
Yeah, very good. And Would this be one? I don't know whether you have a good feel for this or not. Is there a potential sales topper that people can point at just 2 days before the sale?
That would be, that would be kind of the immediate one I go to. Just like I said, on paper, when you have a horse by the reigning leading sire out of the reigning broodmare of the year, I mean that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And it goes beyond obviously the pedigree, the marketplace, Nicole, and you can address this. We've got a marketplace right now where you've got groups and you've got buyers that are specifically looking for sires, for potential stallion types. And so this is a multiple stallion family. And when you think about the SF Bloodstock team, saw Donato Lenny out.
The Coolmore team is in town this week.
Vinny Viola and Mike Rapoli, the Vino Rossos are going to go through. The number one on the hit parade is stallion prospects. It doesn't matter whether they're 2-year-olds in training or they're yearlings at this point in the development curve.
When you're buying a horse, for $1 million, $2 million, the numbers we've seen at these sales, you're not necessarily saying I expect this horse to earn this back and then some on the racetrack. You are paying into that horse's residual value.
Exactly.
As a stallion prospect who could be a multi-million-dollar syndication deal, as a broodmare prospect who you could breed commercial yearlings out of, who are then going to sell for 7 figures in the ring. You're very much buying into, the value of this horse down the line.
Of course, we think we gamble over on this side of the track. All of that place is a much bigger gamble over there. You reflect back on the Green Monkey, for instance, and it can go either way.
Well, do you know the joke? The joke is, how do you make $1 million in horse racing?
You start with
$2 million.
Yeah, exactly. Nicole, let's talk about some of the first crop sires. I mentioned Audible, Catalina Cruiser, Omaha Beach. Here's Matoli with his first yearlings. We talk very often about how first crop products are very desirable in the marketplace. That's more of a Keeneland sale, more of the the big box store opportunity. Here, the tendency in terms of big ticket items, a little bit more of reliability. I mean, there's plenty of first crop appeal.
Yes. And it's a great opportunity in some ways to evaluate the first crop stallions and say, this is a boutique select sale, and to say which first crop stallions through these outstanding physicals that were deemed worthy of being in this sale, which first crop stallions bred these outstanding books of mares to create these stellar pages in the sale. So I think, that's sort of very interesting to look at. And certainly you look through Omaha Beach and Vino Rosso's pages and you see that, they both bred a number of stakes winning or stakes producing mares. Catalina Cruiser, who you mentioned, there was one page that jumped out at me. Catalina Cruiser is the sire of a colt out of Private Feeling, who's the dam of Looking at Lucky, Kensei, and the page keeps getting better this year with Shahama. So I thought having her in his book, and this is her final foal, was a big get for that first year stallion. So in terms of that, it's interesting to evaluate these horses. I'm interested in seeing what we see this week from Audible, and then from Maximus Mischief, who doesn't have horses cataloged here, but does have horses cataloged in the New York bred sale. They're both sons of Into Mischief, who is really starting to emerge as a sire of sires with Golden Sense, Practical Joke. So he has a couple of first crop sire sons this year.
I want to mention one other interesting element in a boutique setting, whether it's the Gulfstream sale for Phasig, whether it's the July sale or this sale, and that is standalones from relatively modest stallion priced types. There's a flame away in here, and whenever Phasig has got a horse like this, one hip from a modest price stallion, it has to be a standout physical.
Absolutely.
And because the page, as it happens, this happens to be hip 169 out of a Bernardini mare, who of course Bernardini as a broodmare sire cannot be beat, and it may end up being his legacy, as it turns out. But Darling's Darling, she's had 6 foals, 4 to race, all winners. So she's a productive mare to begin with. And then here's a son of Scat Daddy, like basically third on the tick list of actually fourth even of the Scat Daddy sons who went to stud here after, with Scat Daddy's passing. And so this colt intrigues me. I mean, this has got to be a fabulous looking horse.
Yes, and Flame Away, another one of those stallions I mentioned this year, who's just an extremely versatile horse. Could do it on dirt, turf, synthetic. So this trend of supporting those stallions really intrigues me in this marketplace with this year's freshmen and next year's freshmen.
Our guys are here, so we should wrap.
Yeah.
Head to Duke and Paul are here.
Well, then
I'm just if you had something else you wanted to hit.
I'll have her on the radio, and as you can, if you weren't familiar with Nicole Russo, you are now. And when Glennie Kane Oakford left the Daily Racing Form, I thought, how are they going to find somebody to replace Glennie Kane Oakford?
That's high praise.
The big mare, as we all know, and Nicole Russo is. You actually do something that even Glennie didn't do, which is seriously handicap. And when they let her do advances and do the handicapping work, look for her leading into Breeders' Cup with the turf sprint coverage. Nicole is as good as there is in the media front for the game. Just invaluable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you stopping by because, again, I think, to me, the sale is one of the highlights of the meet, and I always say for people who are going to come up, you go over to the sale, and
it's a chance. You love it because it's a chance for people to buy you drinks. That's
well, and
going back to the old Spite and Dival.
I will say to the fans out there, you never know what you're going to see at these sales. Newly minted Hall of Famer Tepin sold in this very sale pavilion on East Avenue, a decade ago this year. In addition to all of the other luminaries, we could spend an hour listing. So it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a pro sports draft. You never know what you're going to see.
And if you're new to the game, you can go and pick up a catalog and read through it. Helps you learn a little bit off breeding. It's a lot of fun. Great social scene over there. So Monday and Tuesday, and then next weekend as well, the New York Bread Sale. But a great way to keep up with it. Read Nicole, and appreciate you're also giving maybe some hips for people to look at. Appreciate you stopping by this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Nicole Russo from the Daily Racing Form. Hey, it's Paul and Duke, and they're in the house, so we will take a break. The Matisse brothers up next. Stay tuned. It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse. Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. As touted at the top of the show, we missed him last year with a little technical snafu, and I was getting a lot of negative feedback because people love a visit from Duke and Paul, particularly because where was the segment at Christmas time? And so we'll give you guys an opportunity to say Merry Christmas as well as happy kind of middle of Saratoga. The second right to me, Paul Matties, Duke Matties right next to me. Hey, good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas, Seth.
Merry Christmas.
Steve, Happy Hanukkah.
It's one of thank you. It's one of the
That was one of the all-time.
one of the funniest moments in network history because it took us by surprise. The tie-in. Always great to have you guys here. And I guess the first overall arching question: how do you stand? We're halfway basically, and how's the meet gone?
It's been a little weird because I'm winning, but not a lot, and my opinions have been good. That's the weird part. Usually, my opinions stink, and I'm somehow managed to win a little bit. But I think I have a pretty good line of what's going on, which is a good thing. And, I always talk about Saratoga as the beginning of the year handicapping, and nobody has any idea what I'm talking about. But if you look back on form cycles and stuff, things change when you get up here at Saratoga, and then everybody comes out and they just want to, blow their balls at the beginning and just bet out, and and you shouldn't, because the form is kind of changing. I've noticed this year that it's a little different in that it changed a little sooner, and I think that's maybe why we have a better line, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, actually. I'm showing a profit for the meet. I've had a lot of winners, nothing spectacular, but been doing a lot of work on breeding this year. It seems to be really paying off.
For babies?
For babies.
Yeah.
Babies that are bred on the mare side for turf and things like that, and horses that maybe worked well with certain, in the morning.
Crosses
so, yeah.
and the workouts, but the horse this past week that was the absolute pedigree play was the Ian Wilkes $40 winner, and I felt like a complete idiot. Here's a more than ready, and Ian Wilkes is very cautious, getting them, breaking them in, getting them a race, little bit of a, just a try at Churchill before coming here, and pops at a big number, and it was not that difficult to sniff that out from a pedigree standpoint.
Yeah, there's been some good ones. I mean, even that 3 horse, I think, that ran second to the bet out horse the other day. I think it was on the really hot, the supposed really hot day. I think it's been hotter since. I think that was Thursday, wasn't it?
Duke's like both of the shug horses that won.
Nice.
Yeah, the shug horse yesterday, and so it's been good on breeding, but the dirt's played a little funny with the rail being deep, and that's been
just deep in general.
Deep in general, horses are getting too tired, and
especially the shippers.
Cameo by J.K. walking by over there.
Oh, yeah.
The shippers from Churchill and Monmouth, and Finger Lakes. I thought the Finger Lakes horses were going to do good.
So did I.
At the beginning of the meet, and they just haven't been fit enough. And the odd thing is that the Churchill horses, in general, have been flip-flopped to what they normally do, because they're not doing good on the dirt, but they're doing good on the turf, which is probably because they didn't have the turf.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's completely different than the norm, and Monmouth is the fastest it's ever been, and the horses that have been shipping from Monmouth coming up here have been rough. I mean, even Todd, who's never runs a short horse, his Monmouth shippers, a couple of them were eased and haven't done good.
There's actually, if I'm not mistaken, today in the 6th, right? Is it the 6th? There's a Todd horse. Is it in the 5th? He's got one that he's bringing over.
I know that he's
the set in the 5th.
Yeah.
Was a Monmouth. That's actually been an equation that has been really interesting, and this actually equates to some degree with Tampa and Gulfstream, and running at Tampa for the small purses. In some cases, Clement and Chad Brown just don't want to run their horses on that terrible turf course at Gulfstream, and so they run them for the smaller money. Then they show up. People think, ran at Tampa, can't be much of a horse. No, that's not the case. Same thing. The last couple of summers with Todd and Chad having sizable strings at Monmouth, including the babies, having to take a referendum on on what level they're going to compete at when they show up here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's the way that how the track has played a factor into that. Kind of the wise guy angle that you can come up with that on maybe some of these shippers, there just hasn't worked out because of that. And and it'd be interesting to see how it goes forward. First of all, with all the hoopla now, it'd be interesting to see how the track changes. If there's been some really slow variants, doing the figures, and some of those mile and an eighth races. They get scattered out
and it's a stagger fest
from here to Schuylerville, and so it'll be interesting to see if it keeps going like that. But if it flips, then maybe in the second half of the meet we can get some of these shippers, like you're saying,
Well, talk about the mile and an eighth. We talked about at the top of the show.
Yesterday.
I was surprised, but I love your opinion on the Whitney yesterday. And Life is Good, because on Twitter there was some consternation about the performance. I thought it was a really good-looking performance. 107 Beyer. What did you think of Life is Good yesterday?
Tremendous performance. I mean, I didn't think he would get the mile and eighth, especially like we were talking about this track.
Top of the stretch, I thought they were going by.
Track being so deep and tiring, but he did got a kind of cruising lead, I would call it. He got out there by himself and was kind of just cruising. So
relaxed.
He stayed off the rail, relaxed, and
which he likes to do.
He likes doing that. So and he likes drifting kind of all over.
Yeah,
the
he likes to do that.
He kind of got the right. And I think the track may have been a little bit better because it got wetter.
They harrowed it right. They had
before it rained.
Yeah. So I mean, but he did run a tremendous race.
Yeah.
Can't take anything away.
Yeah, I can't take it.
That should be factored in too. When that rain did come, and they sealed it.
Yeah.
They sealed it after considerable moisture had gone into the track.
They heralded it literally right as it started raining.
Yeah,
and then they came and sealed it.
And usually, frankly, Glenn Kozak they're ahead of the curve on these flash. This was not a thunderstorm. This was a weird sort of cloud over the racetrack for 8 minutes, kind of a rain. Because I tell you, it didn't do a thing to that turf course. I went out to watch the Saratoga Derby, and I mean that course you're going to need 40 days and 40 nights of rain to soften that course up.
Sprinklers every night.
That sprinklers only keep it green.
No, but
they don't. That's all it does.
No, but I'm saying, so that rainstorm yesterday wasn't doing anything.
No.
Turf course is really hard right now.
Yeah. I always like to catch up and get an idea. You guys qualified for an HC this year?
Yeah, both of us did. I qualified at Monmouth in the Pick Your Prize, and I'm not sure where. I think we qualified
horse tourneys. I qualified on horse tourneys.
Okay.
You got both seats because one of you, if one of you were to win Beat Pick, you're eligible for $1 million bonus.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know the bonus.
That would be easy.
$1 million bonus. You would be. This is, right? You can sniff it. Do you have a second seat available?
I don't.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Come on.
I'm not sure I can beat you though.
Well, you don't have to beat me. Like yesterday, you could have come along with me with Nation's Pride, who is a serious. He should be 2 for 2 in this turf triple. But all you got to do at today's race is the De La Rose. I picked Jouster, who I did not expect David Aragona to make the morning line favorite. Actually, I thought she'd be second or third choice. But anyway. I picked Jouster. If you don't like Jouster, my pick, you pick somebody else. If your horse wins and you're not a tour member, you get to join for $10.
That's a good deal.
Right?
That's awesome.
Save $40.
Sounds good.
And if you then win Beat Pick in September 17th is the final, and then you win the NHC, not only do you get the $750,000, $1 million bonus because you're the Beat Pick representative.
Yeah, I've had a chance to on some of those bonuses where I won the Santa Anita contest, and I think I won when it was Fairplex or Losal, and they had bonuses on it.
Yeah.
They put your name there with the bonus all the time. I always on the scoreboard.
Makes you a little.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's.
I love it.
But of course, the year I won, I didn't have any bonuses. But I'll take it.
That was the best part. That was one of the great moments in interview history when I said, Paul, you just won the NHC. Is this your biggest score? No. Not close, actually. Let's talk about actually getting some frustrations out. What is your view in general of what has gone on with the steward stand and the way they're handling these herding incidents. That 8th race on Wednesday, I mean, Javier Castellano, 3 pads, and then actually, coming into contact at the wire, no change. And I mean, I don't need social media to vote one way or the other, but I mean, this was egregious that this was not a takedown.
I thought the horse should have come down. I thought the horse drifted far enough and impeded the horse enough to come down. But I mean, on the other hand, you have other ones that they took down. They took down another one that was not even, I don't even think half as bad as that one. So we gotta get consistent at least.
Well, the herding though, I mean, and you guys have watched New York racing long enough. I mean, and this is not to just to try to indict the current stewards assortment. This has gone on for years and years in New York, where basically carrying horses out and maintaining a lead by taking their path away in the most subtle of manners, sometimes not so subtle. This has been going on forever here. And it's never, I mean, you now get to the point where you watch it and you say, they're going to leave this alone. And it's not, it's dangerous. That's the first order of business for heel clipping and for dropping riders and horses. So number one, it's dangerous. Then there's all of us that are betting on this, and it's completely unfair. And it's remarkable that with the attention given it, there's been no attempt to pull these riders up. At least bring them in, find them, give them some days, even if you don't take them down.
Well, I agree with you on some points, and some other ones when I did a lot of work with the Thoroughbred Foundation.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was on inquiries, and I think, to your point, is that there should be a set of rules of what you're allowed to do and what you can't do with the herding. And I think, just bring in the jockeys and let them decide, because I don't think they should be a dead duck. When you're on the front, I don't think from my own personal opinion, I don't like that. I don't think the jockeys would want that either. Just as a horseman or whatever, if you're just out there and you got to stay, kind of like Hong Kong, you're forced to stay there, and and the horse on the outside has every right to do whatever he wants, but you're stuck, kind of like the harness. Like when they have the passing lane, you got to stay here. You can't do anything. Everybody comes on the outside. I don't think that's the right solution. I mean, if they made it that, I'm willing to go with anything. Consistency is what we want. But so I'd like to give them a little leeway to what they can do. But to Duke's point, and what everybody's point, and is that it should be consistent with what the guy can do, and when the jockey should know what they should can do. I mean, there's no way Louis Saez didn't think he could do what he did on Friday after watching Wednesday when the horse comes out 6 paths. That
exactly right.
He's in a stretch duel, and all he did was just get his horse to engage. This left-handed whipping, I don't like that stuff either. He's got to make the horse see the other horse on the outside, and that's all he did. And they had a brief contact, and I understand why they took him down. In their eyes, they thought that the horse probably, and that's their opinion, that the horse was going to win. But I think the rule should be some kind of what you're allowed to do, what the jockey can do, and did the horse have a fair chance to win? And that horse had a fair chance to win. He was outside him for a mile, the whole time, and he didn't beat him. It was decided on the track. He didn't beat him. The steward should not, in that case, say, "All right, we're going to take this one down." To me, it just was. First of all, it's out of whack with what they do normally.
Exactly.
And then second of all, in the logical schemes of things. Like if you had said somebody that didn't know racing and you showed them those 2 races and said this one is not an inquiry, this one's an inquiry, people's heads would spin.
Yeah, it's all about the consistency.
Yeah,
I think that's the main argument most people have. It's kind of interesting, your point, if maybe it was a little more codified and then there was a little more to go by for fans and for the stewards. But
the fans would pick it up quick.
Yeah.
That's always the thing that when we were trying to do the Thoroughbred Foundation was that, well, you don't want to get too much so that the fans don't understand. They know in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, it was impossible to understand what happened in the last 3 days.
Right.
It was impossible. If you watched all 3,
exactly,
you just don't get it.
And that should be the goal.
Now you're just guessing.
Yeah.
Speaking of impossible to know, the situation we're facing in multiple jurisdictions and graded stake and non-graded stakes and Lasix on, Lasix off. How are you handling it?
Not good.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's very tough.
But that is something for people that are handicapping to definitely watch, because it makes
and that's
it
a
makes
good
a big
question
difference.
for you guys. You say it's difficult. Is it something you are factoring into the handicapping? Oh, this guy's Lasix off, or this guy's back on Lasix. Are you check marking
All the time? If you look at this sheet, you're going to see circles around Lasix holes where they're not on it, and you'll see the figure go down when they're not on it. And I mean, it drives you crazy, because you gotta pay attention to something new that you never ever paid attention
And because of that, it's hard to know how to factor it into the plan.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's not black and white. That's the biggest problem.
It's very difficult.
Because a horse can bleed, not bleed when he's not on Lasix, and then in the next race he might, because it's not.
Yeah.
He might have bled. You don't know what happened, and just the on and off is no good. And even when they go back, if they bled without Lasix, your mindset is, oh, when he's back on Lasix, I'm going to like him. But if he didn't get enough time, if it didn't heal, there's a million things that happen. I've seen that's been my biggest surprise about the on and off Lasix, is that horses that have good form forever, go off Lasix, and then run bad, and then when they go back on Lasix, run worse.
Run worse sometimes, yeah.
I'm one thing going back on Lasix, I will not look at it positively unless there's been plenty of time. Like the long way off back on Lasix, I kind of like that angle, but I don't like the back on Lasix when it's 30 days or less.
What about the situation though, where because maybe you went into a stakes race, had to lose the Lasix? It's not a bleeding situation.
Well,
I think.
Robin Sparkles is probably the most recent fascinating scenario.
Perfect example.
Yeah, she comes off Lasix for the graded stakes and runs a stunner. And granted, some of that's a pace factor of a pace horse that got the lead and went on. But I asked Bruce Brown the other day. I said, "What were you expecting?" He said, "Well, we're a little concerned because."
And just because she did this over here, I'm worried that I'm not going to make the assumption that she's not going to have problems when she runs on off Lasix next time.
There you go.
But I don't. But where do you go? I can't say one way or the other. You're kind of just guessing. And that's the hardest thing in racing with this. I call it this transition that we're in.
The HISA era.
Just everything. It's hard to predict anything. Like we've got so that everybody runs off 60 days, so that's harder. Form cycles are out the window. The Sheets guys, your buddies there, they got to be having big trouble because there is no cycles.
Yeah,
there's no. I had a Twitter follower that made a good point about yesterday or the other day about what could I have seen in this race. She was asking, what could I have seen in this race that would have put me on this horse? And I think she made a great point, because that's what I see all day long is, there's nothing in the form anymore that we might have been able to see.
Yeah, the form's not there, but somehow there's somebody out there making the horses.
Right.
Somebody's betting these horses.
That's the hard part, too.
And they're making them odds that you would never bet them at.
Right.
I mean, I've seen examples of horses that are should
So-
be 15 to 1 or 3 to 1, and
They're not
somehow they get the
handicappable
lead and
angles.
win.
Yeah, they're not handicappable angles. It's like, the money's right, but they're not. The money's not deciphering it off, a traditional racing form or a traditional sheet. It's like
They knew.
Yeah,
They knew.
Yeah, they do.
Speaking of they knew, the pressure is always on for a Paul and Duke
They
visit
knew.
because we've got a long-running streak here. That was part of the consternation when we had the snafu last year and you guys couldn't show up, because we always like to get some opinions on the afternoon card. So let's get some thoughts and toss out some winners to the folks today. Duke, why don't we start with you? What do you think?
First horse I'll definitely go to will be fourth race, the Adirondack. I had a trip on the 4-horse, Sabra Tough, last time. Kind of like what Paul and I call an upline 2-year-old that closed well on the rail, which I thought was a little off at Churchill last time. I think I can beat Naughty Gal too, who's going to be an overbet favorite.
Yeah.
So I like the 4 Sabra Tough. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, sure.
Because I might steal one of Paul's if I keep going. But the 6th race at Saratoga, the 9 horse had a rough trip first time out at Keeneland. Jonathan Thomas really good with horses stretching out on turf.
I love the Augustin horses when they come up here. I used to love them with Shepherd. But anyway,
nature nurture.
You like Jonathan Shepard? That's going to be news to this.
He likes the Augustins
horse. The morning line was a little short given what this horse did.
That horse can't be 5-2.
I'm hoping, yeah.
No, that horse won't be 5-2.
There's a lot of pedigree in this group.
Yeah, there's a ton of pedigree.
Serious pedigree here, including the Emma's Encore baby that invests
I'm thinking
wisely.
that horse will be more like 4 or 5 to 1.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you said that.
I like the 2 Justifies.
So Delight number 9 in the 6th. What else?
I think With the Moonlight might turn the tables on McCulloch just because he might be far enough ahead of him on this harder turf course. I thought it might even get the lead. If he gets the lead, I think it's lights out.
So the Charlie Appleby double people could have had.
And then in the 9th, I like Love and Thunder, who's had some rough trips. Has run 2nd here 2 times. I think it was last year. So they're the 4 horses that I like.
All right, sounds good. Paul?
Well, you mentioned earlier we weren't on here because I think Steve broke the cameras with the suit last year. And but I think it was kind of like the racing gods were working because I've never not given out a winner, and I wouldn't have on that.
But wasn't that the day that they really did something broke, right?
Yeah, the cameras broke.
Yeah. We lost power between here and Albany.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
That wasn't so. It wasn't the day that Paul had to go swing by the apartment.
Thanks for bringing that up. So over there,
Paul was going to, and then he relented.
I'll get more of the Rip Van Winkle. Hey, when's your birthday? I got an alarm clock for you. I did a podcast a few weeks ago. And they had like this quick, here's a minute of quick questions. So who's your favorite racer? Blah, blah. Your most embarrassing moment at the racetrack. And I'm like, what the? As Paul and his wife were outside my door.
Yeah, she wanted me to ask you if that's what her joke to me was, do I have to pick up Seth on the way over to do it today?
And for folks who don't remember, it was last year. I have 2 phones that I used as alarm clocks. One of them ran out of batteries, and one of them I had set incorrectly. So I'm in snoozing, and I hear banging on the door. I go open the door, and there's Paul and Paul's wife. Oh, thank God you're all right. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then I look at the clock, and it's like, oh, I missed the first show. We're in the middle of the 2nd show. I made it for the end of the 2nd show, but yeah, then the rest of the season.
That sounds like something I would do.
I said to people subsequently, you work in an insurance office, you're late to work, they shrug their shoulders. You're on TV, they think you're dead. So
I would tell you
we really did that.
I know. Steve and I really did that.
That included Paul calling me and goes, "This isn't good."
Well, I go to pay my rent, go in the office a couple weeks later, and they're like, "Wait, they really wanted to get in," but she said I was worried about it. It's like, well, it's nice enough to be concerned. Give us some winners.
Well, the one I like the best is in the 8th race, the 8 Portilla, who was chasing wide on an inside flow day and has a real distinct pace advantage, which I think should be able to stalk, and I don't think 7 furlongs would be a problem. I think that's the horse I like the most today.
Nice. All right. Anything else of interest?
Duke covered some of them, but I guess not really. The card isn't the greatest. To go with him, in that same 8th race.
Okay.
Phil Bowers had a great meet.
Yes.
And his horses have been running good. And even though they're out of the same race, the 6 and the 8, and I'm definitely going to go with both of them together somehow in the exactas and tries. In
the snake.
The next race there, the 9th race, just how about Tom Worley? How the meet he's having?
Yeah.
It's been interesting that the trainers
That horse is dangerous.
Yeah, I think
asserted style we're talking about. The 8, 15 to 1.
Just maybe how the how the barn's going, and I think they're going to be aggressive too in that race.
I'll ask you guys, race number 1, horse number 2 is my dark horse play of the day today, brought to you by the Dark Horse Mercantile. Either you guys like the 2 in the first race? Say yes, bye.
Yes. I thought that race was the most wide open race of the day. So
It is.
every horse
It's a
looks
fun
like
race
they
to
could win it.
take a little shot with.
So yeah.
And there was no pedigree in the whole race.
Yeah, there's
That
no
was-
pedigree.
That was the weird thing. We looked. I tell you, I did a lot of work in that race, but the 2 workout horses there are the 3 and the 7,
Okay.
and they seem to be working good. Unfortunately, the 7 worked real good into his first race too, so he could be a morning glory. But I think the 7's going to take a lot of money because he's working exceptionally good. So.
Before we go to, I do want to get in a question that came off of Twitter, and one of the viewers asked about the Breeders' Cup Classic Future Wager, which closes tonight at 7:30. I don't think we really saw anything yesterday that is going to change a ton of minds. Maybe Olympiad, actually probably Olympiad maybe picked up a point or two. I'll turn to you guys. Any thoughts about this? I mean, you've got presence in Vegas, to bet it where it's being offered in Vegas, but the rest of us, a chance this weekend to.
Duke and I have a disagreement on this a little bit.
This will be
is
good.
Yeah, because.
What do you think?
Well, Duke is, like everybody else, and rightfully so, loves the flight line. But I kind of, his last race kind of, to me, showed that he had flaws that could be exploited, maybe, especially going longer distances and with bigger fields. And the interesting thing to me about this is that the 3-year-olds went through the 3 races, and they didn't seem like they were that good. But every figure that I've done since the Belmont has jumped significantly, including the Jim Dandy, which was a really fast race, which is really weird. And I thought Epicenter couldn't have been more impressive.
No.
He won without the trip. And, the pool, I noticed that Epicenter wasn't being bet like a 3-year-old. Unfortunately, with betting a 3-year-old in the Breeders' Cup Classic, you're not getting the best of it. Like, if you tried to do that in Vegas, you just wait. You're better off waiting for the Breeders' Cup. But I noticed that the 3-year-olds were getting kind of ignored in the pool, in the parimature pool. So I would be looking for 3-year-olds. That's what I would do.
And that's tremendous advice. I had Tim Schramm from Breeders' Cup on Friday, and I specifically brought up the 3-year-olds as being the option because there's going to be this preconceived notion that we have such a good group of handicap horses that the 3-year-olds will be up against it this year, except that the 3-year-olds the first weekend of November, are not the 3-year-olds of the first weekend of May. And Steve Davidowitz wrote in Betting Thoroughbreds about how there's this preconceived notion after the Triple Crown. People have seen these 3-year-olds so much, and they've made up their minds about them. Don't make up your mind about them because Cyberknife and Epicenter and I'm sure that Charge It, and those types, and that. Well, let's see what the Derby winner does as well.
Even the West Virginia Derby yesterday was fast.
Skippy Longstocking.
He got a perfect trip, but it's weird that all these 3-year-old races are coming up fast.
They're a good group.
Yeah.
They're running triple-digit buyers, and they may very well be competitive. And there's going to be pace in this classic. So. One of the most interesting stories of the entire campaign season is going to be the way the Asmussen barn, the way Asmussen and Scott Blasi and team have handled Epicenter, because everybody was hammering them that they took away his best virtue, his speed. They took the speed away from him, teaching him to be a raider and teaching him to be a stalk and go. Well, based on that Jim Dandy performance, it's going to serve him well by the time we get to Del Mar.
Yeah,
to Keeneland.
I just think he's the best 3-year-old. Period.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's true.
I don't
Might
think
be
there's
true.
I don't think there's a mystery there at all. I don't know if they purposely took the speed away. He broke that day.
But they also seemed, based on the workout pattern, it seemed that they were trying to teach him to settle and sit behind horses. And
what's a good lesson though? Epicenter's teaching himself.
There you go.
There you go. Everybody seems to think that it's just always the trainers doing whatever.
No, the experience. That's what experience. Period.
He's figuring it out. He's figuring out I don't have to go faster.
Well, and this topic is, and coming out of the last 2 weekends, gets back to Cyberknife in the Haskell and Epicenter in the Jim Dandy. they had way more experience than early voting and Taba, and the horses that were making their fourth starts versus horses that were making their eighth and ninth starts. I mean, there's something to be said for, and both of those horses, Cyberknife in particular, was a behavioral problem as a young horse.
Yeah. I still think he's in trouble when he goes against Epicenter.
I think he's. All right, we got to wrap.
We got so much more to do.
Seth Merrow, just like Seth Merrow, like Jonathan Shepard, we are way over time on Loose on the Lead, but there's no surprise there when Paul and Duke Matties.
I like that when you guys argue, though. They should change the name of it. It's like, Loose on the Lead. My joke is, which one is Irad and which one's Jose? Because somebody's always loose. It would be great if you guys just duel. Wouldn't it be great if Jose and Irad got into an argument and they dueled all the time?
I always acquiesce to him. I always yield to Seth.
I can't get too mad because I won't get the bag of ties.
Speed duel. You can switch it. You come in here and just start punching each other.
So before we go, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy, healthy. A great 2023.
Happy holidays.
For the replay coming up a little bit later this year. But again, it's always fun. Paul and Duke Matties, thanks for stopping by. And
thank you, sir.
Enjoy the rest of the season out with the purple tablecloths. You guys drinking out of the Big Red Spring? Is that a thing when you're out there?
Yeah, my son and I do.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
There you go.
We're used to it.
I don't partake.
Happy birthday, too, to Duke, a week late.
Oh, nice.
50 this year.
50 years old.
Excellent.
Has he grown up at all?
No.
Definitely not.
It only gets better from here.
I don't know about that.
We will wrap it up for this edition of Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrow, Steve Beck, every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. So we'll see you again next week. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. Sales coming up Monday and Tuesday night. Enjoy those as well as far as OTB TV. Back Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.